Hydrological cycle. Definitions. The water cycle or hydrological cycle is the endless circulation of water from the oceans into the atmosphere through evaporation to the land in form of rain and again to the ocean in form of the surface runoff. The processes of hydrological cycle. The endless circulation of water is carried out in the following processes. Evaporation. This takes place on the open water surface like oceans, seas, lakes, ponds, rivers, and swamps. The water is changed into water vapor by the sun's heat and then it rises into the atmosphere. Some water vapor is also added to the atmosphere through direct evaporation from the soil and transportation by plants. This loss of water through these two combined processes is called evapotranspiration. Cooling. As the water vapor rises into the atmosphere, it expands and cools because of the reduced atmospheric pressure in the upper layers of the atmosphere. Condensation. When the cooling of the water vapor continues to below dew point, the vapor turns into tiny water droplets. These droplets join together in large quantities to form clouds. Precipitation. When the clouds become too heavy, they release the moisture they are holding in a process called precipitation. This process returns water to the ground in the form of rain, hail, or snow. Surface runoff. When the precipitation reaches the ground in the form of rain, some water flows on the surface into valleys, ponds, lakes, swamps, and even into the sea. This form of water flow is known as surface runoff. Infiltration. Some of the water from precipitation seeps into the ground through the pores, joints, and cracks found on rock and soil particles. This entry of water into the ground is referred to as infiltration. Percolation. Inside the ground, the water which has infiltrated moves downwards and sideways by gravity. It does this by passing through the cracks, joints, and pores that exist between rock particles. Some of this groundwater may appear at some point down the slope as a spring which then becomes the source of a river. Overland flow. Both the surface runoff and river flow make up the overland flow. River water flows back to the oceans and other drainage basins where evaporation takes place once again. The hydrological cycle is then completed. Significance of the hydrological cycle. The hydrological cycle is significant in maintaining atmospheric energy. The amount of water vapor in the atmosphere determines the amount of energy stored and circulating in the atmosphere for the development of storms. Interference with the hydrological cycle reduces precipitation and eventually leads to desertification. Sea levels drop when a lot of water is withheld in the form of ice as a result of climate change, which leads to less precipitation. Less moisture will circulate in the hydrological cycle as a result of deforestation, which reduces the rate of evapotranspiration. Interference with the hydrological cycle disrupts the water balance in the ecosystem. For instance, excessive evaporation due to a rise in surface temperatures may cause increased rainfall and excess flooding.